Hi everyone, this is Carla from Written Word Calligraphy. I hope you guys are having a good day. I am so grateful that I get to be with you guys and share a little bit about my career as a calligrapher, and maybe I'll help encourage you guys to take a small business or maybe perhaps convert your creative path to a career one day. So, as you guys probably know, or you may not know, my name is Carla. I am the CEO and founder of Written Word Calligraphy, and I am a calligrapher and designer. And I'm also a mom of two. My two little ones are there in that picture there with my husband Clement. And I am here based in Vancouver, Canada, but I'm actually originally from the Philippines. So I moved here after university. So that also kind of has given me quite a different experience in terms of education. But a lot of the skills and the things that you will need as a business owner one day, a creative business owner one day, is applicable wherever you are in the world. But first, let me share with you guys what is a calligrapher. You guys might not even have heard of what calligraphy is. Some of you guys may think that it's like from ancient Greece. Well, it has been around for a very long time, and you do use some of the traditional tools with it, like a calligraphy pen, just like this one, a flexible nib, and ink to write letters beautifully. I personally love it because it's been a way for me to meditate, worship, and also relax. And it's helped me calm my anxieties down because it writes letters like very slowly, like 10 to 20 times slowly. And I think it's also a really cool business opportunity because there's many ways to apply it. You can apply it as a service, like offering a calligrapher service, or people can watch you do calligraphy. You can create products with it, whereas it's a custom work, or you can also create tools with it. You can also teach it as in a workshop or online courses, which is what I do. And there's just so many more things you can do with modern calligraphy. A lot of my calligrapher friends from across the industries and over the years have changed and pivoted in many different ways. And I've loved how they have used their one skill in so many different ways. And I actually got into calligraphy by accident. I didn't learn calligraphy in high school or earlier than that at all. I was interested in, writing in general, but not necessarily calligraphy. And I fell into calligraphy one day in Vancouver. It's rainy over here, and I just was scrolling on Instagram, and I discovered somebody who was doing modern calligraphy. So modern calligraphy takes a lot of the traditional tools of calligraphy and allows you to take your own spin to it. So in a way, it's a very cool creative expression. So everybody's modern calligraphy style is different. So I saw this lady, she was doing modern calligraphy, and I was very curious about it. And that's kind of how I got into it. And I have fallen in love with it since, and it's been 13, 14 years since that started. And now I've had my business for over 12 years. So let me kind of give you an overview of what modern my written word has been or has become since. So I started off with an Etsy shop like most creative people do, and I still do. I still have my Etsy shop today. I hosted in-person workshops, and especially at the time that I started doing them, there wasn't a lot of people in the industry that was teaching modern calligraphy as a workshop, especially. So I did them in various different ways, whereas it was in retail. I also did them in corporate settings, and I also did some in-person personal workshops, like people would hire me for a baby shower or a bridal shower. And then I found my niche in the wedding invitations. I started creating destination wedding invitations, which I personally love because it helped transport me to different places all over the world. And I got to do so many beautiful custom wedding invitations. That means the invitations were different every time I made them. And it really helped curate my style. And I don't know, I really still love making wedding invitations. And that really helped me push the envelope and start doing it full time. Prior to that, I was still doing my corporate job. And I also started hiring my very first employee. After doing custom invitations for at least 1 or 2 years, I just was starting to feel a bit of fatigue from it because a lot of my clients wanted the same designs over and over again. And also creating something custom from scratch every single time can be quite a bit of a stress when there's a deadline involved. So I started creating semi-custom invitations, which pretty much are like templated designs, but because I still use my calligraphy for them, that it still makes it unique. So I created the semi-custom invitations. I launched that, and it was very successful because I chose the most popular designs that my customer already wanted, and so these were the designs that resonated with the most people. And then around this time, I also started to create products with my calligraphy, which the first one was the practice pads. So when I was hosting the in-person workshops, I discovered that a lot of my students wanted to continue practicing, and with the shortage of time that we had with them, they wanted to learn more but wasn't able to attend another workshop, for example. So the practice pads were initially just for my workshop attendees, but because my audience had become so broad all over the world, people thought that the practice pads kind of felt like a workshop with Carla. And so I was very excited to be able to launch them. And shortly after that, I had my son, Chase, and that was a huge turning point for me. You guys are still little and young because you're still in your high school ages, but I would say like becoming a mother was just the most like craziest thing that has happened to me, because it really changed my level of priorities. It also changed like the way I had time for myself and for other people. And it's just, yeah. So I'll share about my advice later, but it definitely changed a lot for me. And in fact, I actually experienced postpartum anxiety, and I was also quite down after. It took me a while to get back. Not to scare you guys, but it could happen. You just never know. Becoming a mom is tough. And that really helped me kind of change how I did my business from then on, because I had a lot less time to do things. And I had to find ways how to be more efficient with my time now that it's more limited. Okay. And then I got the opportunity to write a book. And that kind of gave me the idea that maybe I should start documenting some of things I was doing and try to make it less custom or less like live, which is why I started offering online courses. And that happened to be the time the pandemic started, which was the perfect time to launch an online course. And when people were trying to learn modern calligraphy, they were also looking for supplies. So I also launched beginner calligraphy supplies. So at first I started just buying other people's supplies and then reselling them on my own. So I was purchasing them wholesale and then selling them to my customers. Then I started to also create my own, manufacture my own, design my own, and then sell them to my customers. I also my students also told me that they wanted to go away from just being a beginner. So I also launched intermediate and business courses. And as my audience started changing to more educational students, I discovered that they also were craving for more beautiful supplies. And part of my brand has always been the aesthetic. And so I decided to expand the product line. And soon after, we had to move to a new space because we were just not having enough space yet. And then I had my daughter 4 years later. And until now, we're continuously like molding and shifting depending on our customers' needs, and also, of course, my personal interests and time. And so Written Word as a business now, we primarily focus on the online courses as well as the calligraphy supplies. And then occasionally I still do take wedding invitations and some on-site events, just depending on what kind of works best. The Etsy shop has changed from custom work into the products themselves as well. And also, Written Word as a name was given to me by God, because when I was starting out in modern calligraphy, I actually started with writing God's Word. And writing God's Word has been a very important part of my life, because that really helps me remember His Word and that has helped me navigate through many seasons in my life and my business. And so writing God's word has always been in the crux of written word, and that's also why we have a lot of products that encourage people to write God's word, like our digital Bible verse worksheets. So how did I become a business owner? Like, what kind of started that? So in the beginning, I have always been surrounded by people with an entrepreneurial mindset. My dad had his own business. My cousins often had their own gig as well. So I was quite interested in owning my own business. It was like a vague dream I had that I wanted to own my own business, but I had no idea what it would be. But I also was very interested in the arts. So my dad and my mom noticed that I really loved to paint and draw. So my neighbor happened to be a fine art painter. And so I spent a lot of summers with her painting in her studio. And so I had some background in sketching, in watercolor, in oil painting, acrylic painting. She was not actually really much of a teacher because she was more of an artist, but that gave me, inspiration, or at least it gave me the confidence that I was a good artist, even though I actually really wasn't that good of it. I just really enjoyed doing it. And then I also took advantage of, all this artwork I made, and I would sell them in my own house, in my own room. I remember setting up like my own studio, my own little market, like a lemonade stand, except it was my art stand. And it became, people would know me for that Carla would often give gifts, her artwork as gifts, and people would purchase artwork from me, but it was mostly my family and friends supporting me. But still, it was a good way to get me started in that realm. In high school, I started working part-time in the summers at my uncle's advertising and printing company. I was really grateful for that experience because that's how I learned Photoshop and Illustrator, which are good skills to have, especially as a graphic designer. And these really helped me as I moved into university because it gave me a lot of opportunities to use these skills in my courses. And I actually took business management in school because my dad, maybe it's also a little bit of that Asian mentality, told me that, a lot of artists, want to make it in their gig, but a lot of times the skills that they're missing are often the business skills, right? So you can go and learn your calligraphy, like your creative skills later on in a different way. Sometimes like the university setting is not actually the best for art. That's why there's art school, right? Especially where I grew up in the Philippines, like the business school, going to school for business actually also meant that you created a lot of relationships with the people that would possibly be your business partners in the future, because a lot of them also came from families that had businesses themselves. So that made sense to me, and that also gave me a lot of experience because our university gave us a lot of opportunities to have our own businesses. In fact, I owned, I think, 3 different businesses at one time. Because that was part of our project. So I got to work with different kinds of people. I got to hire my first employees. I had to learn what it was like to have a food service business. And so I got to discover things I liked and didn't like through my time in university. I also got to use my skills in design, right? Like I was part of a marketing club, and I had to make posters and things like that. So it was so nice that I already had those skills. And this was also when I was interested in photography, because I was getting frustrated that when I was doing the posters, that the photos given to me were so terrible. So I decided to get into photography and learn that as well. So I loved that I got to explore with so many different creative skills, even though I wasn't like learning it specifically during this time, and kind of got the chance to, kind of learn it on the go. And then after university, I moved to Canada. I took a post-secondary certificate in web analytics, which honestly was not that useful. It was a Google Analytics kind of crash course at UBC, but I learned a lot more kind of doing it eventually on my own when I was using it for my business. And then in terms of work experience, I was pretty explorative in the beginning as well. I was a studio manager and photographer. I worked a lot in weddings and commercial at this time. And then I also worked in corporate setting. I was working for Future Shop and Best Buy as a communications specialist and marketing specialist at TELUS. So during my time at TELUS, I was already starting to do calligraphy. And so when God kind of closed the windows of me getting a promotion, that was when I decided, you know what, I'm going to start doing calligraphy as full time. So my journey as a calligrapher honestly was not linear as well. I taught myself how to do modern calligraphy. I read books. I watched people's videos online. I learned by watching and practicing on my own. So obviously, when you're learning on your own, there's often challenges about not finding the right tools. So I often had to ask, and the books were pretty helpful with that. Of learning kind of what tools to have, and then purchasing them online because our local Michaels didn't have it during that time. I still remember going there and purchasing a whole bunch of things and then realizing that they were not for modern calligraphy because there's actually a lot of different kinds of calligraphy as well. And then I also found that I had to develop my own calligraphy style in order to stand out and find my niche in modern calligraphy. So that took a lot of time and practice to find my own, unique calligraphy style. So a lot of practicing and experimenting as well. So I also learned as a small business owner that you do have to wear a lot of hats. So I am so grateful that throughout my childhood and high school and university education that I got to develop a lot of these skills, right? So the creative skills, marketing is so important as an artist. Every time I speak about business to artists, they're always like, I don't know how to make money from this, right? Learning how to promote yourself, and that's why public speaking helps. So another thing I didn't share with you guys was growing up, I also joined a lot of public speaking competitions, and and I'm not saying that you guys need to do that, but it is really important to learn to be shameless because that's part of being able to promote yourself because you need to speak about yourself, right? So public speaking does help a lot. I don't know if you guys have Toastmasters here or opportunities to do that, but that's essentially part of it as well. Customer service. That's probably something you guys can pick up when you do like retail jobs, for example. Financial management. Oh my goodness. You have no idea how difficult is this part of it. That's why I actually took the business course to help me learn about that as well, so that I knew what is accounting like, what is the operations like, all of these different things that, make a business work. Those are important skills to have. And of course, it also helped me learn that so that I could price myself effectively, right? Like, no, you don't just price what you're worth. You have to price yourself so that you can also pay yourself and pay for all the costs involved in it. For example, a lot of times when you work on a project, you can't just consider the amount of time that it took you to design it. You also have to consider the time that it took for you to talk to your client. You also have to consider the time that you needed to buy the supplies. All of this should be included in the cost of your pricing. And sometimes those are just things that people don't think of or don't consider when they are being creative. Organizational skills, because you need to be able to manage your time, manage your supplies, make sure every inventory and things are like on top. You need to be on top of it, right? And as a small business owner, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything until you start hiring for people. And then of course there's the people skills. People skills are so important if you want to survive as a creative small business, because you are often not only designing for yourself, you're also going to be designing for other people. And learning to deal with all sorts of different people is an interesting skill to have, but it's important because we also need to find a balance between making their needs met and also your needs met. And then of course there's also skills for training. Eventually you're going to have people in your team, and you need to be able to train them and make sure they work together and manage if there's like people fighting each other or drama. It happens, even in a small business. And of course networking, because that kind of molds into marketing and sales as well. And there are challenges, but also a lot of rewards for being a small business owner. I personally find that having your own small business, it can be very personal because it's your own gig. So that's why failures can feel harder, because it just feels like it's your fault, but it isn't. But because you made the decisions, it might feel like it's your own thing. And because there's so many things that you have to do, sometimes you just not enough time to do everything. There's just not enough time to do all the different things and also design at the same time. That's why, if you can find somebody to be your operations arm so that you can focus on the design, that would be amazing. It's just that sometimes it's hard to find the right person to be that. And sometimes not everybody can do everything. I am grateful that I can dabble in a lot of different things, but sometimes some of the creative people just cannot do business. So you may need to outsource that. And so when you outsource certain things, like I was saying, it's hard to find the right people. But of course, as a small business owner, I find that the rewards highly outweigh the challenges, because there's just so much beauty in being able to do something you love. The satisfaction, the fulfillment of creating something with your hands and seeing your customers happy or seeing people purchase your stuff, and the flexibility of owning your own business. There's just so much about that. Like I can make decisions on the fly, or I can decide, okay, I'm going to make a new printable and launch it today, or design a new product. And I don't know. I just find it's so satisfying to dream up something and then actually see it in person. And that's a little bit of like seeing your own personality and how that works. And this verse has really impacted my life throughout this journey of having my small business. Is in Colossians 3:23, that whatever I do, I would work at it with all my heart as working for the Lord and not for human masters. When I was young, I only focused on the work at it with all your heart because I just loved working and being busy and doing all the things. And that's some part of a small business. But, God often reminded me that, Carla, you have to remember who you're working for, who your boss is. And it's just so satisfying knowing that even if I have human clients, that my ultimate boss is God and he's the one I have to please. So even though I no longer have a human boss, that he is my master, it helps me make decisions better, and also makes me navigate the hard challenges better, knowing that the God of the universe is up behind me and in front of me. Yeah. So here's my advice for students learning to, if you're going into the creative careers, or maybe you're thinking of having a small business, this time as in high school and in the next few years you have is to learn as much as you can. This is the best time to broaden your creative skill sets, right? Like, go and learn pottery and painting and drawing, taking pictures, like learn as much as you can, because this time at your age, your brain is so good at absorbing things and putting things together. And also all this exploration can help you find what resonates with you the most. And it's okay to change. As a small business, that's the best part. You can navigate through the different seasons in your life when things change, and your interest changes as well. But this time, when you're young, to make most of what you can. Now that I'm a mom and mom brain is real, okay, I find that it's harder for me to learn now, and I don't have the time and capacity to learn as much. And especially when you have a small business, sometimes you're so focused on the running the business part that learning and doing the creative part becomes less and less. So this is the time to explore and learn as much as you can. And there's so much you can do on your own these days that will help you also navigate the different challenges of different kinds of creative skill sets. On the entrepreneurial side, every small business starts somewhere, okay? Like I said, I started with having little businesses in my own house. If you had a lemonade stand before, perfect. I love that. Or maybe if you had you make these cookies for Christmas and you sell it through your mom and her friends, that's still something. It gives you a chance to learn what it's like to earn with your own hands. So take this opportunity to try different things to create and maybe sell. And maybe you can learn to use social media, or you already do, and technology to promote your work. I'm sure you have also experienced buying something or being interested in something because somebody showed it. Think of that and see how you can replicate that or be inspired from that and do the same thing. And honestly, part of being an entrepreneur is also observing people. So if you like to watch people and see what they're interested in and see how they react to certain things, that's also a huge part of it. And if there's something that I want you to remember out of all of this, is to pray and seek God's guidance in your journey. And written word has pivoted in many different ways in many different seasons because of how God has been leading us. And we always pray about where He wants us to be and how He wants us to glorify Him in this work. And that's what I encourage you guys to do as well. Because there is nothing more satisfying knowing that He is behind you and in front of you, and He will lead you. I promise that He will lead you when you ask and seek Him. And when you pray for it every single day, He will really show you very clearly on what it would be. He will show you a Bible verse, or He'll bring you people, teachers, and friends to help you and navigate your journey. Calligraphy is something I stumbled upon. But a lot of my friends, they also had a lot of life experiences that helped them start their small business. And I think that's also part of how God is always guiding us. So I am so grateful that I got to chat with you guys today. I hope you guys were inspired with creating a creative career. I really do think that if you want to make it in the creative career, you do need to have some business background, because in order for you to be able to pay yourself and be able to do it freelance, for example, that's a huge part of it. If you guys have any questions at all, my email is always available for you guys, and I am so grateful I got to share this with you. I wish that more people talked about their creative careers and their small business careers when I was your age. And yeah, thank you guys for having me, and I hope to see you guys maybe one day in my studio volunteering or doing some work. Thank you all. Bye for now.